Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. The Phils took down the Braves, but the Braves took down Bryce Harper. Should the Phillies have hit somebody back? We'll talk about retribution in today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air with 97.5 The Fanatic over doing radio and recently some TV here in the Philadelphia sports arena. So I've been doing that for about 5 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure that you're rating and reviewing if you're checking us out in podcast form. We are available wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube or want to check us out on YouTube and haven't yet, hit that subscribe button when you do. Subscribe to Locked On Phillies on YouTube, and it'll get you notifications when new episodes are posted. It's free. It's easy. It really helps us out on Locked On Phillies, so I appreciate everyone who's done that and everybody who's going to do that in the future. So the Phillies take down the Braves 2-0. That's great. Ranger Suarez was awesome. That's even better. We're going to talk about Ranger Suarez more in depth a little bit later on in the episode. We're also going to look ahead to the remainder of the series. It is a rainy day here in Philadelphia, so we're once again talking weather in our final segment to see if the Phillies end up with a day-night doubleheader tomorrow, Thursday, against the Atlanta Braves. That seems like what's going to happen, but we'll talk about that. The thing that we've got to talk about most from this game, though, it was a 2-0 win. It wasn't full of all these crazy, exciting moments. I mean, Max Kepler's RBI double scored Alec Boehm early on to make it 1-0. A bases-loaded walk to JT Realmuto led to a 2-0 lead, and that's how the game ended. And really, the pitching was spectacular for the Philadelphia Phillies. The defense was solid, but there was nothing all that crazy in this game besides what happened in the first inning, which is what we got to talk about. It's the story everybody's talking about. And I'm giving you my thoughts on Bryce Harper. So Spencer Strider in the first inning comes inside with 95, and Bryce Harper wears it on his surgically repaired right elbow. Same elbow he had Tommy John on. Got him kind of right in the lower part of the triceps, just above the elbow, so it didn't look like it was right on the bone. But, man, it does not feel good. That's funny bone territory. That's painful. And that's also for Bryce Harper, a spot where you worry about re-injury of something that was surgically repaired. You don't know, like wearing 95 to that elbow when it's been his last major injury is a pretty terrifying thing for Phillies fans. The good news, first and foremost, they took x-rays. X-rays were negative. It is an elbow contusion is what they're calling it. Now we'll see what happens with Bryce over the next couple of days. We'll see what more information comes out. It doesn't sound like it's going to be anything majorly problematic, but elbow contusion could be a couple of days, could be a week. We don't know. We know Bryce Harper heals quickly. He's Superman, but I'd be surprised if he plays today, if they play. I'd be surprised if he plays tomorrow, if they have a day-night doubleheader. And then we'll see what happens in the weekend series with the Milwaukee Brewers coming to town. But Bryce Harper, it could have been worse. It seems like he got out of there better than it – well, I know he got out of there better than it could have been. So we'll see what the after effects of Bryce Harper getting hit in the elbow are. We don't know. It doesn't seem like it's going to be like the Blake Snell hand situation, though, where it's surgery and a significant amount of time missed. That's at least what we're hoping on the initial report. So before we get into the should the Phillies have hit somebody thing, seems like Bryce Harper's okay. Now, what do you do? How do you respond? Because Bryce Harper's been hit a lot lately. He's been getting guys throwing inside on him, and they always do because he's Bryce Harper, and you don't want to leave something out over the plate. You don't want to let him get comfortable in the box. He's a great hitter, and what do you do to great hitters? You try and take them out of their game, which means throwing hard stuff inside. But obviously, you're not trying to hit the guy, or you don't want to hit the guy. And Rob Thompson said after the game that he did not believe that there was intent behind Spencer Strider's fastball to hit Bryce Harper. He doesn't think Strider hit him on purpose. I don't either. First inning of a game, Bryce Harper, unless there's some unknown beef between Strider and Harper that I don't know about, I don't think there's any reason that the Braves would have been throwing at Bryce Harper, which somewhat explains the lack of reaction from the Philadelphia Phillies over the next 8 innings. But you did hit our superstar. You did injure our superstar. You took him out of the game in the first inning in the first game of the series. That a lot of people feel like should lead to one of the Braves players getting hit. And with that, I'll tell you, I agree. I was sitting there watching this game saying, okay, you got to get somebody. You got to go get Acuna. You got to go get Olsen. You got to go get Riley. You got to get one of their big guys. Like, get Acuna in the ribs next time he comes up. I think that would have been perfectly warranted by the Philadelphia Phillies. And I would have loved to see it, right? I don't want anybody on the Braves hurt. I'm not rooting for intent to injure, but it's baseball, man. And sometimes when they get your guy, you got to get one of their guys. That's how it's always been. And there are still teams that will do this. It's toned down significantly in the modern era for baseball, like in where we're at right now. The post, 2015 to 2025, last decade, you've seen less and less guys hit intentionally, guys going after dudes. And I guess that's a good thing for baseball. It's less barbaric, but there's a way of policing. And sometimes umpires do not do their job to get guys out of games that hit people intentionally or throw erratically. And sometimes you got to be like, yo, stop throwing inside on Bryce Harper. You want him to stop that. It's not going to be Bryce Harper hits those balls because you can't get to them. It's going to be your guys start throwing inside on their guys. You say, okay, here's what we're going to do if you hit us. And I would have loved to see Ranger Suarez put 93 in Acuna's back, put 93 in Olsen's ribs, put 93 in like Riley's glute. Just like, don't go up on him, but hit him. It's totally fine with me. But the situation did not call for it. I understand why the Phillies did not. I understand why Ranger Suarez did not. Because at that point in the game, it's 0-0. And then when Kepler has his RBI double in the early innings, it's 1-0. And you don't want to put the tying run on base, right? You're playing to win the baseball game. Bryce Harper going down, like hit by pitch, is not a reason to say, screw the baseball game, we're going after you, especially when it wasn't intentional. Now, if it's intentional, all bets are off, screw the game, go after him, and go after him hard. But this did not seem to be the spot where it was like there was some type of underlying beef. It was more just like hey, I know you messed up, but you got to wear it. It's just kind of the nature of the game. And you don't put that over winning a baseball game against a division rival when the Phillies are as hot as they are. So Ranger Suarez didn't do it. And then later on in the game, it didn't become 2-0 until late. And that was via bases loaded walk. And you're not going to put the tying run at the plate by hitting somebody and putting them on intentionally. Just, the reason the Phillies didn't hit somebody was probably because the offense didn't give them the chance to. I'm not like faulting the offense. They won the game. Whatever. I don't really care. Oh, we only scored 2 runs. You win, you win. Against a team like the Braves, just got Acuna back, just got Strider back. They're a better baseball team than their record shows. You play to win the game. You don't play to hit somebody in the ribs and cost yourself something. Because then I'm on here saying you wasted an opportunity and the fans are mad and you lost the game that you could need somewhere down the line. Like, you don't put a game at risk for it. So if the Phillies had scored 6 runs in the second inning, guess who's getting drilled? Acuna, walk up to the plate, take your medicine. Like, they just didn't have the opportunity. And now the conversation is, well, do they do it tonight? If it's rained out, do they do it tomorrow in one of the games of the doubleheader? Well, you're not going to do it with Wheeler on the mound because what's possible is a suspension. And you want to lose Zach Wheeler over this? Hell no. That's not happening. You're not going to take your best pitcher, Cy Young candidate, one of the best arms in the sport, Zach Wheeler, and peg a guy in the back, which it'll hurt for like 10 seconds, and it'll send a message. But are you really winning that message if Zach Wheeler gets tossed? Like, no, that doesn't make sense. I'll tell you what's the perfect way to do this is just file it away, right? Put it in the back of your mind for later on in the season. And then if and when Jose Alvarado rejoins the team, because he's suspended for 80 games, he's ineligible for the postseason. Like, he's not a part of the future plans for the Phillies anymore. But if he comes back end of the year and you have a late season series against the Braves, throw him in the late innings of a blowout game, one way or the other, and go get somebody. Like, that would be the perfect scenario. Unfortunately, Alvarado is not available right now due to the PED suspension. But you don't want to use a starter because you don't want a starter getting suspended And also, all your starters are very, very valuable right now. Everyone's chucking. We're going to talk about Suarez and what he's been doing lately coming up next because he's been awesome. You don't want to get a guy suspended over it, and they will get suspended over it because as much as baseball players, pitchers still feel the opportunity is available to throw at guys, they know that the league does not treat it the same way as they did back in the day. Back in the day, you hit our guy, we hit your guy, we move on. Deal's done. Maybe the bench is clear, whatever. Like, as long as people don't beat the tar out of each other in response to it, you're probably getting away with it with just okay, you handled your business. But that's not how it goes anymore. Guys will be suspended. Dudes will be kicked out. You'll create more of a mess for yourself than you already have. So I'm okay with the Phillies, given the game flow, not going out of their way to hit somebody. But you do have to remember it, and you do file that away. And this is like a building block to a future intentional hit of a player that I think could come later on in the season. We know there's not good blood between these teams, but last night just wasn't the opportunity. It doesn't say anything about the Phillies and their relationship with Bryce Harper. It doesn't say anything about the manager and Rob Thompson, his fire, or whether or not he should want to hit those guys or defend his star player. No, it wasn't the place. But we'll remember. We'll remember that and file it away. And Bryce Harper will remember that. And all the hard-throwing guys in the bullpen will remember that. And that's something that will possibly come up later on in the season. But I had no issue with how the Phillies handled it. It sucks that Bryce went down. Hopefully he is back quickly. Sounds like it's nothing major. Just one of those situations where I think cooler heads prevailed, and they should have given the circumstances. Speaking of cooler heads prevailing, Ranger Suarez always keeps a cool head, and he prevailed last night in a strong way with 6 shutout innings. He's been awesome. And what does that mean for the Phillies rotation? They've gotten even scarier to face in a series. We'll talk about that next as we continue today's episode. All right, let's talk a little bit about Supply House, because you can get the supplies you need for the site made for the skilled trades, which is, of course, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website. It's packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, they got a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands. So you're going to find exactly what you need every single time, and it's going to be delivered fast from coast to coast because Supply House customer service, they're second to none. If you need help with an order, they offer expert support and industry-leading service. So you're always going to talk to a real person, no machines or anything like that. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, you can take it even further with their free Trade Master program, which offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line just for you, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. You're going to be behind the 8 ball if you don't. So join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Go ahead and check them out. Ranger Suarez, you beautiful, beautiful man. We missed you at the start of the season, buddy. It's good to have you back. Your first start, not ideal, right? It comes out, it doesn't look great, a little bit rusty, and you say, okay, well, it's the first one for Ranger, and you kind of understand that. You're like, okay, it'll take a little bit of time for him to work some stuff out. Don't panic. Give him a little bit. He'll settle in. But boy, has he settled in. He has been a monster lately, a low 1s ERA in his last 4 starts. He has really settled in, and you are getting, like last night, you got Ranger Suarez that you got at the first half of the 2024 season. He went 6 innings. He only allowed 4 hits, 3 walks. So that command is he's still trying to figure it out. He was getting into a lot of 3-ball counts last night, but 8 strikeouts. He was punching out guys left and right. Against a good Braves lineup. They haven't been great this year, but with Acuna back, I mean, they have the confidence that they could still be a great lineup. Ranger Suarez took that confidence from them. He was excellent last night, and he's not going to get enough credit for it. And the reason he's not going to get enough credit for it is a great thing. Wheeler, Suarez, Sanchez, Luzardo. When you look at those 4 guys, Ranger Suarez's performance last night against the Atlanta Braves doesn't stick out as much. It just doesn't, because you have two guys who are Cy Young caliber pitchers so far this year in Zach Wheeler and in Jesus Luzardo. Luzardo actually probably has better Cy Young odds right now than Zach Wheeler does, which is a shame because I'd love to see Zach Wheeler win it. I'm fine with either of the guys winning it. Like, I root for Luzardo too, but Wheeler feels more like our guy, and he feels more deserving because of how close he's been. But all of this to say, well, Ranger Suarez goes out there and dominates, and it's not like it would be with a team with a normal pitching staff where you go, wow, he's been amazing lately. You just look at him and you say, he's just doing what all those other guys are doing. But you have to have a frame of reference for that. The other pitchers on the Philadelphia Phillies staff in the rotation have been amazing. And heck, the bullpen's been better too. Last night, you throw your high leverage guys, Ryan Kerkering, Matt Strom, Jordan Romano, all go through clean innings out of the bullpen. And you just love it. The only guy who allowed the hit was Ryan Kerkering, and he got out of it real darn quick. Each had strikeouts. I mean, you had 11 total strikeouts in the game. You shut out the Braves cleanly. It was a great performance by everybody. But Ranger Suarez is starting to feel, again, like that start of the 2024 season guy. And if you add another guy to the mix, he will not get Cy Young consideration the same way because he missed like the first month of the season. And it's tough to come back from that. But Ranger Danger is back. Like, he's starting to become a problem in this rotation. Sanchez has not hit his ceiling yet. Ranger is still settling in a little bit, but he feels pretty settled. But now you have, I'm not going to beat Zach Wheeler. I'm not going to beat Jesus Luzardo. I'm not going to beat Ranger Suarez. I'm going to struggle to beat Christopher Sanchez. If Nola comes back and works things out, he can go on stretches where he's pretty damn good. Andrew Painter's unbelievable. He's going to be up in July. Mick Abel, we'll see if he makes another spot start. He looked pretty darn good. Taijuan Walker has been serviceable in relief of Aaron Nola. So you just look at this rotation, you're like, oh, well, where's the weak spot? There really isn't one. And having four guys the caliber that the Phillies do now, all going well at the same time, that's why they're winning so many games. That's why they've won 10 of their last 11 contests. That's why they've won 9 of their last 11 series. That's why they're one game away from making that 10 of their last 12. That's why they have the best record in baseball, because they just keep getting elite level starting pitching. And Ranger Suarez deserves more credit than he's going to get. But it's a good reason why he's not going to get that credit. And it's just because the rest of the Phillies offense is so good. Like, if Bryce Harper, to bring up the guy who we talked about in the first segment, if he was hitting 300 and had like 20 bombs on the year, Kyle Schwarber's 18 home runs that he has, batting like 250 something, wouldn't seem that impressive. But obviously, it still is an outstanding feat. It's just like Ranger Suarez is being overshadowed by consistently outstanding pitching by everybody. Or not overshadowed, but like, you know how it is. It's kind of like a Mr. Universe competition where you see those guys out on the stage. You're like, that guy's jacked, that guy's jacked, that guy's jacked. And they're all muscle-bound dudes. And you say, okay, that guy's a little bit bigger than that guy, he wins. But if you put any of those dudes into like your local gym, like, that is the largest, strongest man I've ever seen. And that's kind of what the Phillies rotation is. Ranger Suarez is still jacked up, man. He's still a bodybuilder, but he just like, he's amongst a bunch of his peers that are also at that level right now. It's a great thing. This Phillies rotation is as good as advertised, maybe even better. Jesus Luzardo and Aaron Nola have kind of flip-flopped in that you're like, I don't know what we're getting out of Luzardo, but we know that Nola's solid. Now it's, I don't know what we're getting out of Nola, but Luzardo's a Cy Young candidate. It's just everybody's picking up the slack for Aaron Nola in that rotation. And the bullpen, at least with the big high leverage arms, gotten much better. Romano was really, really good last night, by the way, in the 9th inning. He deserves a lot of credit for what he's done to bounce back from a rough start to the year. His numbers are not going to look good, but the appearances are looking great. I mean, this is just a really good baseball team. And last night might have been a boring win, but it was still a Philadelphia Phillies win, and that they just find a lead and they choke you out. Could be close late, could be behind late, but they're just going to keep you right where they need you to be to win that baseball game. And that's part of the reason they didn't hit somebody, because, well, once you go for retribution, you throw off the whole feng shui of how this team works and how you win ball games. Atlanta's not a bad baseball team, but they are very clearly not on the level of the Philadelphia Phillies right now, especially not at Citizens Bank Park. The Phillies And maybe we'll talk about this in tomorrow's episode if tonight's game's rained out, which we'll talk about next, the weather forecast. They're 70 for their last 100 at home. They've won 70 of their last 100 games at Citizens Bank Park. That's insanely impressive. They are so good in that ballpark. It was a playoff-like environment, thanks to Spencer Strider being on the mound, thanks to the Braves being in town, but also thanks to the Philadelphia Phillies fans for showing up on a Tuesday in the middle of May or end of May and post Memorial Day weekend when you could just be sitting on your couch recovering from the weekend. No, you went out there and you made life hell for the Atlanta Braves to the point where Spencer Strider is warming up before the game. And he's got one of his bullpen coaches trying to get people thrown out of the stadium for heckling. Beautiful. I love it. Keep going after him. Keep going after the Braves. Make them uncomfortable to be here. Don't take it too far, obviously, but be loud. Let them know, hey, we're the best team in baseball. Not you guys, you losers. Go back to Atlanta. Make them not happy to be here, right? And that, in turn, makes it harder for them to play. It makes it easier for the Phillies to win. I'm good with that, man. It's a division rivalry. Pull out all the stops. We know that we don't like that team. We know that they don't like us. That's why it sucks to not see someone hit somebody in reaction to the Bryce Harper hit by pitch, but you come out with a win, and Ranger Suarez looks as good as ever. That's just another weapon for the Philadelphia Phillies to use, and you're going to need it to help save this bullpen as we get deeper and deeper into the season. Speaking of the bullpen, you're going to need them tomorrow, most likely, because it looks like it's rain in the forecast for later on tonight in South Philadelphia. We'll talk about the weather forecast, the potential doubleheader, and how that could mess with the remainder of this series as we wrap up today's episode. So game one was last night, and the Phillies found a way to win, and you'd expect Zach Wheeler to throw today in game two. It's a scheduled day. Well, unfortunately, he may have to throw tomorrow, or they may flip things around a little bit. Everything gets a little bit screwy if the Phillies get rained out. They're scheduled to go at 6:45 tonight. Wheeler on the mound against A.J. Smith-Shawver. Another solid pitching matchup there. Wheeler's been unbelievable. Just to give an idea of where Ranger Suarez's numbers are at with the low 1 ERA in the last 4 starts, Wheeler's had an awesome year. He's 6-1 with a 2.42 ERA. So they'll just tell you how good Ranger's been at keeping runs from coming across in his past couple starts. But we know Wheeler's unbelievable. We know that the Phillies are favored every time he takes the mound. That changes a little bit if it's a doubleheader. And the weather tonight, just go into the trusty Weather Channel app that I always use. I love this app. So much better than any of the other ones that are out there. 92% chance of rain right now as I'm recording this in the morning. Looking to tonight, 96% chance at 6 p.m., 96% chance at 7 p.m., 96% chance at 8 p.m., 89, 88, 84 in the sequential hours, whatever word you want to use, leading up to 11, 86% at midnight, 76% at 1 a.m., 67% at 2 a.m. It doesn't look like it starts to taper off until around 3 a.m. They're not going to start a baseball game at 3 a.m. I can almost guarantee you that this game is going to be postponed some point in the next 2 to 3 hours. They're going to call this game. They're going to say, nah, we're not getting it in. We got a free day tomorrow, doubleheader. We'll run it. The weather tomorrow looks fine. So Phillies and Braves, I would expect a day-night doubleheader on Thursday to round out the series. The first game would probably be the matchup between Wheeler and Smith-Shawver. The second game would be the projected pitching matchup for the final game, which is Sale-Sanchez. That's a great pitching matchup of lefties as well. Even though Sale hasn't been as good as his Cy Young year, and Sanchez hasn't quite lived up to the dark horse Cy Young expectations from before the season, I mean, you're going to be looking at a situation where you're going to get some great pitching. So if you can make it down for both games of that day-night doubleheader, heck, go ahead and do it. It's going to be a fun day in South Philadelphia tomorrow. Now, here's where it becomes a problem. Because, one, the Phillies have momentum. They won again last night. They had an off day on Monday. So they probably want to kind of get in a rhythm. It's not good to play Sunday, off Monday, play Tuesday, off Wednesday due to rain. Like, ball players are used to playing every day. Guys are used to getting out there. Wheeler has said multiple times, I don't like throwing with extra rest. I like to go on my day. And if the rain restricts that, there's nothing the Philadelphia Phillies can do. Now, what you will see sometimes is you'll see a flip-flop of starters based on the timing that they prefer. Like if Zach Wheeler goes, I'd rather throw the night game in a doubleheader, you can get into a situation where Sanchez throws the first game tomorrow. He matches up with Smith-Shawver. And then you get Sale, Wheeler late. Whew, that would be fun to see, right? A matchup of 1 and 2 in the Cy Young race in the National League from last year. Little revenge for Zach Wheeler for not winning that award, even though Chris Sale was deserving. That would be really, really cool. But what gets tricky about doubleheaders is the bullpen gets even thinner. And you have to be really smart about how you handle things. They all threw. The big three, Kerkering, Strom, and Romano all threw today. So getting the day off is not the worst thing for them. But if they throw in game 1 of the doubleheader, they're not throwing in game 2 most likely. And that means game 2 is going to be Tanner Banks and Jose Ruiz and Carlos Hernandez and Joe Ross and guys like that. And you look at that and say, okay, well, it's going to be tough to keep the lead if that's a tight game. The offense is really going to need to wake up. And if that's against Sale, it's going to be tough to score significantly. So that's why doubleheaders are an issue, is because you don't get the opportunity to spread out your bullpen usage. And with the Phillies' thin bullpen, they are not a team that's excited to play doubleheaders right now, I have to imagine. The likely outcome of a doubleheader is a split, right? And that's what seems to happen just about every time. You can sweep, and that would be great. But if the Phillies can just get a split, that's fine. They win 2 out of 3 in the series. They win another series. Like, they're not going to get swept by the Braves in a doubleheader, I do not think. But where it gets tricky again, and I keep saying that, because doubleheaders are tough to manage. It's going to be a tough day for Rob Thompson if they got to play 2 tomorrow. Last time they did it was 2 weeks ago against the Cardinals, and they split those games. They should have won the second one, but Aaron Nola imploded in the night game. You remember that one. They went on the injured list. But when you look at it and you say, okay, game 1, let's say it's a 1-run game, and you throw Kerkering and Strom and Romano in relief of whoever throws. It's scheduled to be Zach Wheeler in game 2 of this series. But let's say it's Wheeler, and he's got to shut out, and it's 1-0, and you relieve him in the 6th, and 7th, 8th, and 9th is the same way the Phillies went after it tonight. And you give up 2 runs, and you lose that game, and the offense doesn't produce. Well, the next thing you know, you're out your best relievers. You're playing in game 3. You can't use those guys in big spots because you just used them, and you're using a lesser pitcher than Wheeler in Christopher Sanchez. Like, it can get sketchy fast in a doubleheader, which is why I'd rather just see him play every day. But the likely outcome is that the Phillies are going to be postponed tonight. If they throw tonight, let's get after it. Zach Wheeler gets out there. I think the Phillies have a much better offensive night against A.J. Smith-Shawver, who's had a solid season so far, but is still a young pitcher and a gettable one compared to guys like Chris Sale or Spencer Strider, even though Strider wasn't throwing all that hard. I mean, Smith-Shawver's 3-2 with a 3.67 ERA, a 1.42 WHIP. He's given up 20 walks this year, and he's only struck out 41 and 41 2/3 innings. So he's just like a strikeout and inning guy, which isn't overpowering. I think you've got a great chance to win tonight, and you should win tonight if you indeed play the game that's scheduled to be played. I just don't see a possible window. So tomorrow it's going to be a let's play 2 scenario, in my opinion. If you have tickets to tonight's game, make sure you're diligently checking everything on social media from the Phillies and keeping an eye on your phone so you don't get got by heading down there if it's going to be rained out. If they do play tonight, by some miracle of God, they find a window, well, hopefully the Phillies will find a way into things. I'd like to see the offense be a little more productive, but last night was just kind of a, hey, Strider was solid, even though he wasn't throwing as hard, and the Phillies were just not creating enough opportunities. They were getting deep into counts. They just weren't cashing in when they did. But I'm not too worried about that when you're able to scrape runs across, the defense is good, and your pitching holds them. However you win, you win. So no major qualms with last night's game and the way it went on. Would like to see more offensive production, and you probably will see more offensive production if they play tonight. And if they play in the doubleheader tomorrow, then all bets are off, and we're in for a wild, wild time. But that's how baseball goes sometimes. You win, you lose, it rains. Those are the options. And tonight sounds like an option 3 night from what I'm seeing with the forecast. That's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Tomorrow, if there is indeed a rain out, we'll have some fun with some like side topics, some auxiliary topics, as well as previewing game 2 and 3 of the Phillies series with the Braves. If game 2 is tonight. We'll react to that game on our next episode. But once again, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. And please make sure, again, you're rating, reviewing, and subscribing to the YouTube. And I will talk to you next time on our next episode of Locked On Phillies. Go ahead and check it out.